Hi guys, and welcome to my first Source SDK tutorial. Okay, so to begin with, I'm just going to be teaching you how to use the basics of Source SDK. So once you've loaded Steam up, go to your library and go to Tools and then launch up Source SDK. Right, cool. Once your screen pops up like this, in my first tutorial that I did before this, I was just teaching you how to make your different games pop up on your Source Engines list, and I did Zombie Panic Source. If you want to set up a different game, it's basically the same as what I did here, but I set it up just for Zombie Panic Source. You can do the same and set it up for Garry's Mod or any other game that you want, but I'm just going to be mapping in Zombie Panic Source. So once I've done that, I launch up Hammer Editor, and then I go to File, New, and then we'll open up a screen like this. Alright, so once this screen opens up on your screen, go to the top left hand corner of each of the grid views. We're going to change the grid view to suit our likes. I've set it up the way I like it. You guys might set it up different, but this is how I've got mine set up. So in top left hand corner of each of your grid views, you'll see a little window that pops up. Left click it once and select 2D side for the top left, 2D top for the top right, bottom left is 2D front, and bottom right is 3D shaded textured polygons. You don't have to set it up the same as mine, but if you do, it'll probably be easier to map the way I am. But you don't have to, it's up to you. You might prefer a different setting. Cool, so once you've done that, make sure you scroll out of your grid view on each of them. You don't have to worry about this one here, because this one is just what you see in game. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to click this little button up here. This makes the grid smaller so that we got better bearings when we're mapping. It makes our blocks a lot smaller instead of having a huge block. We just have small ones and we can snap to the grid a lot quicker. Alright, next we're going to learn about the tools that we're going to be using. This one here is the selection tool. This one here is the entity tool for placing spawn points and stuff. This one here is the block tool for creating walls and all that stuff. And this one here is the texture tool. These are the four that we're going to be using a lot in this tutorial. Okay, so once you've done everything that we just did then, go to your block tool and make sure that you're mapping in the center here. This is the center of your map, right there. So you want to be mapping roughly in the center of your map. You just gotta click and drag, left click, hold left click and drag to create your block. And there we go. Now make sure you drag it up in your side view and across in your top view. You want it so that people can move around. Okay, once you've done that, make sure that you put your mouse in this screen here, this bottom screen here, and use W, A, S, and D to move around and the arrow keys to turn. Move outside your box, right click on the grid view and create it. Awesome, so that's going to be our block that we are going to spawn in and do stuff. So now I want to teach you how to optimize your map a little bit. Go to the texture tool, go browse, and in filters type no draw. Once you've done that, double click no draw and apply. Make sure that you've got your box selected so that it applies the texture to the box and nothing else. Make it smaller if it's too big. I made mine quite too big. You don't really need it to be huge, you just need it to be a decent size. Once again, just make sure that your map's in the middle, because as you're messing around with it, it'll be moving about. It might be too big, too small. You want it to be roughly in the middle. Okay, cool, so that'll probably do. It's still quite big, but it's just a first map, it doesn't really matter. Okay, now we're going to make this box inside hollow. So to do this, go to Tools, Make Hollow, and use -8. Hit OK, and there you go. That is now your box. You can do it two ways. You can use the make hollow like I did, or you can just use the block tool and create it yourself. I tend to use the block tool and create it myself, but because this is a tutorial, it's got to be done quick, and yeah, it's easier that way. Less confusion on people. Okay, so once we've done that, go to your texture tool and browse, and then in filters type brick or grass or whatever you want to do. I'm just going to do brick, and from there go to mode, apply texture plus value, and just click around in your little view down here, and that will apply texture to the inside of your map. Make sure the outside of your map is still no drawed. You don't want it to be a texture, otherwise you're going to get a little bit of lag on older computers. If you've got a good computer, it doesn't matter too much, but it's always a good idea to learn optimization early in your mapping, so that when you're creating maps later on, you don't make your map bad. Okay, so once we've done that, for Zombie Panic Sauce mappers, follow this part of the tutorial, otherwise you're going to be having issues. If you're not mapping in Zombie Panic Sauce, then you don't need to do this, you can skip ahead. Alright, so for Zombie Panic Sauce mappers, hold shift, click and drag on the box, make sure it's selected, and it will make a copy. Drag it outside of your map somewhere, it doesn't matter where, and make this box smaller than your normal box. It doesn't need to be huge, it just needs to be outside your map somewhere, and it just needs to be a tiny little thing like that. Even that's way too big. Yeah, that's probably almost perfect. It's still too big, but it'll do. From here, we're going to go to the entity tool, and we're going to go here. Down underneath entities, go to objects, and in here type info player commons, and left click a heap of these inside this little area that's not your main map. You don't want to do it in your main map, you want to do it in that little area that we just created before. Make sure that they aren't inside the walls or inside the floor. Okay, that'll do. That's probably plenty. Yep, cool. The map's still quite large, but if you want to make it smaller, go for it. If you don't, then don't stress too much about it, because this is only our first map, we're not going to be publishing it. But if you were making a map that you're going to publish on a server, then you would make sure that it's small. Yeah. Alright, so we've done that. That's our waiting room created. So there you've just learned how to make spawn points for your common players. If you're mapping in Zombie Panic Sauce, you'll know what a common player is. If you're not mapping in Zombie Panic Sauce, then you'll have no clue. Basically all it is it's a random player that spawns in a room to select a team for Zombie Panic Sauce. Not many other games use it, or none that I know of anyway. Okay. Right, now we've done that, we're going to go back to our main map, and we're going to go info player human, back on our entity tool, info player human, paste that one there, and info player zombie, and paste that one there. Cool, so that's our 2 team spawns done right there. If you are mapping for another game, such as Counter-Strike or Team Fortress 2, you'll probably end up doing red and blue, or counter-terrorist and terrorist, instead of zombie and human. But yeah, it's roughly sort of the same, just different names for the teams. Anyway, once you've done that, cool. So that's our spawns taken care of. Now we're going to make lighting. To do this, go back to Entity Tool and click in here. Change that to light. Click the top one and paste one around the map somewhere. Drag it to the center of the map. Right there, that'll do. And make copies with it by holding shift, left clicking and dragging. I'm going to put one in each corner of the map, just so that it lights up the whole map. You don't have to do it, you can put it in any spot you want, but I'm going to put it in the center and on each corner. Make sure you do it in your waiting room if you're mapping for Zombie Panic Sauce. If you're not mapping for Zombie Panic Sauce, then don't worry about it. Just skip ahead. Okay, so now that's taken care of, we are going to go back into our main map, if you're mapping in Zombie Panic Sauce and we're checking. And we are going to create weapons now. So to do this, we are going to type weapon, USP, or weapon pistol, or whatever in whatever other game you're mapping in. And we're just going to create one right there. Okay. If you're mapping in Zombie Panic Sauce or any other game that has weapons that spawn around the map, type weapon, random firearm, and paste a few of those around your map. This just makes it so that the weapons spawn at random rather than having the same weapon spawn in the same spot constantly. Also do that random ammo. Once you've done that, we can now go to yeah, just check around your map and make sure it's all good the way you want it to be. That'll do. That's pretty good for me. Alright, now I'm going to teach you a little thing about how to turn your items or objects or character spawns, so on and so forth. We go to our grid view. Okay, so you can see that this guy here is highlighted. That's the guy that I've got selected just over here. If we click on him once inside the grid view, you'll see how these change up here. If you do it again, they'll change again, and you do it again, it goes back to normal. So this one here is the enlarging, or if you're mapping, like making a player spawn, it'll move them rather than enlarge them. You'll see how it moves it around. This one here is the rotating one, so you can rotate them left, right, back, front. You can also rotate them up like that, and you can turn them like that. Each view does a different one, so right there. If you make a mistake while you're in a map, Control Z to undo. Alright, now I've told you that, go to save, which is in file, save as. If you're mapping for Zombie Panic Sauce, just name your map ZPS and then name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it ZPS Test. If you're mapping in another game, name it whatever you want. It doesn't matter, you don't need the ZPS in it. Okay, now just a reminder for anybody that is saving a map. Make sure that when you save your map, you don't put a space. If you make a space, that is going to make your map not work. You want to make a underscore, like that. Underscore. And to do that, you just hold shift and the button next to your 0 key, just hold shift and press that once. Okie dokie. So once you've done that, save it and go up to File, Run Map, and you'll pop up a window like this. This here is just your compiling method. If you've got a fast computer, I suggest you just run it on normal, normal, and normal. If you've got a slow computer, run it on fast, fast, and normal. If you've got a really fast computer and you want the best lighting, come to the advanced settings, which is in Expert, and go to HDR Full Compile Final, and then just hit go, and it'll start compiling. Once it's compiled, your map should run. If it doesn't run, make sure that you have the option in here unticked. It is called Don't Run the Map After Compiling. Make sure that's unticked, otherwise you'll end up not being able to run during the game. Okay, so once you've done that, just test out your map, make sure that everything looks good. I'm going to show you what mine looks like right now, so I'll see you in a little bit after I finish compiling.